thank you guys so much for joining us today. I know it's busy. You guys are getting ready to open up the bakery today. I know you guys work together regularly, so that's why we're doing this kind of a 2-for-1 deal. I think I'm going to call this episode Talkin Sweets, and I figured I'd get two of the sweetest bakers I know to come on the Best Made Weddings podcast. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell us who you are and what you do?
Okay, I'm Kayla. I'm from Seatown Sweets, and I do custom desserts and treats.
I'm Holly. I'm from Hollywood Baked Goods. Also do custom desserts as well.
Awesome. And just before we get started, I don't want to waste too much time. I mentioned the last time on the podcast, ratethispodcast.com/weddings. Just right off the top, if you guys like and support what we do, ratethispodcast.com/weddings is a great way to leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice. Thank you guys so much for coming on today. How has everything been? I know it's been crazy with weddings and events and everything the last months. How's it been going for you guys?
It's been great. We were fortunate that we never had to close our business because we are like a restaurant. So we just kind of had to pivot back in March when everything was going down. We lost a lot of like our corporate business, and obviously weddings were kind of going crazy. So we just shifted a little bit, and we got on like Grubhub, Uber Eats, and doing like delivering, contactless delivering, things like that, just to kind of supplement the business. And then we opened up the storefront so people could walk in and pick up treats or pull up to the curb and we could take them out to them. So yeah.
Oh, it's been busy for you?
Oh, yes, it's been busy as well. I mean, both of us have been fortunate enough to grow during this time. Again, it's been in like a different way. We've kind of gone from like a corporate kind of larger scale catering to more like individual sales of people like coming into the store, which I mean is great because it kind of brings in a whole new clientele. And also pivoting off of what Kayla said, just being really smart about the products that we're offering. When we first like back in March when COVID really started to like get serious and things started shutting down, we were like, okay, kids aren't in school. People still want treats. And so we kind of brainstormed with kits, like decorating kits you could do at home. Obviously, Kayla's like the sugar cookie queen. So doing kits for sugar cookies was really, really popular. I did cupcake ones as well that were also popular. Definitely not as popular as Kayla's because sugar cookies, that's just like what you decorate. It totally makes sense to do. But just being smart and kind of pivoting and thinking outside the box in terms of stuff that we would normally do that like worked with our clientele, and it ended up being really, really successful. So we're fortunate for that.
Yeah, it's great. And so we kind of do this podcast now. I know you guys have both been on the Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. This is kind of our wedding planning branch that we started kind of during COVID, trying to figure out, we really produce this kind of week to week just because I got bit in the butt early on with all the regulations and trying to plan everything out. And now obviously this happened again. And last night kind of Inslee opened up receptions, to 30 people, kind of limited, whatever, which is great. But the idea behind bringing you guys on this week was to talk about, I was at a wedding on Sunday and they wanted to send everybody home with, like a treat, they couldn't do a reception. And so they did like a ceremony and then cut a cake, kind of like as part of the ceremony, and then send everybody home. And so I wanted to kind of figure out some other alternative ideas, with receptions kind of looking crazy right now and where you guys do a lot of to-go stuff. Just using your expertise to kind of talk about some other options and things that people can utilize, for their weddings, or limited receptions, kind of, what's going on right now. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I actually was helping Rebecca Grant with the WSWEA kind of proposal to Inslee for like the bakers. And I contacted the Department of Health and talked to their COVID unit specifically because, yes, we're food, but we are different, and it, like the cake is kind of like a ceremonial thing. And just wanted to see like what the rules and regulations would be around that. And based on my conversation with that person, this was like a couple months ago, so maybe like July or maybe even June, but the food has never really been the issue with COVID. It's always the people and the handling of things. So they were fine with, having a cake set out on display. They were okay with having even food kind of set out. But again, the main thing was just having someone there kind of manning it, serving it to the guests. Another option was they could have sort of, everything displayed. So the couple gets those pretty pictures of their dessert table, but then they would have the catering staff kind of slice up the cake or kind of put together a little smorgasbord tray and take it to each table and say, this is what you get. So people they would still get a choice, but it was amongst their family. They could do kind of like an order style where, the catering staff would come up to the table, say, okay, who wants chocolate cake, who wants vanilla cake, and kind of, divvy it out that way. But unfortunately, the wedding scene really got shut down before any of that was really possible. The only wedding that I did was back in, July, I think, when everything was still open, right? And they did cupcakes, and they just sliced the cake and just kept it really, really simple. Trying to think some other ideas. Definitely the to-go thing was popular. Packaging up cupcakes individually. So the couple, they did their small ceremony, and then as guests left, they just grabbed a cupcake to go, sign the guest book, and that was done.
Holly, any ideas?
Honestly, a lot of the weddings that I've done, people have just come and picked up the treats and then they've gone on their merry way. I know I had seen some talk about having like plexiglass in front of the food, as well as kind of like a barrier between the servers as well as like the individuals, just kind of like an extra added layer of protection. But I think Kayla pretty much hit kind of all the marks. I mean, we've always done individually packed treats because I think that, in a pandemic or not, they're always really appropriate for certain events. So I still think that's a really good option as well. Kind of like, this is exactly like what you get, and maybe it kind of takes the choice away a little bit. But I mean, we try to always encourage, our brides and our grooms too, to like, hey, let us know if you have like vegan people, gluten-free people, so that way we can actually like allot it. So I mean, there is some option of choice as well, still. Even with handing out like individually packed treats.
Yeah, it's funny. You talk about trying to limit the hands and stuff. We had a wedding, and they just like last weekend, and they had a little dessert thing for guests coming and going, and it was just like these jars, like reach in and go, and I was like, this is like terrifying. This is like so bad, just for like in terms of like safety and cleanliness. So now that receptions are kind of opening again, right, and we can have these limited, I think it's 3 hours, 30 people or less. Walk me through, if someone wanted to, like you were talking about having like these smorgasbord or different little options. Like if I'm someone that's planning the wedding now and I want to come to you guys, what would that look like, and some options and decisions and things like that? If that's what I wanted to do and wanted to do, safely do some desserts for my guests.
Oh yeah, I've had many conversations with this. I was actually talking with a bride, and she's getting married at Willow's Lodge in a couple weeks here. And we've kind of had to, scratch the ideas like left and right. But now that we're kind of in this home stretch, so what we're doing is we're just doing a small cutting cake for the couple. And guests are going to get a cupcake, which is going to be individually packaged. And then they're also going to get a cookie as like the favor, because they were going to have those on the tables for guests, but we can't do that. So they're just going to have a small number of guests kind of like come and say hi to them at a time. Again, kind of sign the guest book and then grab a treat to go. I'm not sure if that's going to, I just had a conversation with her on Monday, and now we're Thursday and everything's kind of changed again. So I don't know if that's going to change again. That was their kind of plan. I think, honestly, the little mini desserts and stuff, which we've always done, are really going to play a huge factor in weddings going forward. So we're fortunate that we're not just a cake vendor. We're not making these big elaborate cakes where we have to then kind of figure out, okay, how do you slice it and package it? We've always done, petite desserts and treats that are easily packageable. Again, there is some limitation with certain things, like with buttercream sugar cookies. I can't always do like my beautiful like 3-dimensional flowers because they would get squished, but there's options with that. So I've been trying to recommend with couples, let's have like at least some sort of cake option, either, like a cake pop or a cupcake. And then you could do like a favor, like a cookie or something else, even like maybe hand pie, where guests can kind of take that to go. But I think that if we're not sitting down and eating dinner together, everything is still going to have to be to go.
What's been the hardest part for you guys? Has it been trying to navigate the regulations? Has it been trying to figure out, like you said, things changing and keeping in communication with, couples and clients, and, whether it could be weddings or other just events and things? What's been the most challenging part of this all for you guys?
I think kind of like all of it, really. I think for me personally, a big part of it has just been the ethics of it as well, because you still have, which is shocking to me, but we've had, people reach out to us and they're like, hey, we're having a, 100-person wedding in, my aunt's backyard. And, as a company, you have to think ethically about how you feel about that. Because you can make treats for them and they get their treats and they're going their merry way, or you can say no and they're probably going to go to a different bakery and maybe they'll say no, but eventually I would imagine someone is going to say yes. And then you kind of couple that in with the fact that, businesses are still struggling. So you look at like the dollar amount of it, and you think, oh, that would be really nice because it's going to pay the rent this month. But like ethically, it just doesn't feel right. So that's been kind of an interesting thing to be able to navigate like on an emotional, moral level during this whole time, as well as keeping up with like regulations. And we've been on normal like video chats and phone conversations, hearing, what other states are doing and how their regulations are going there, and if it's working, if it's not working. But I think for me, like ethically, that's been probably one of the biggest challenges. And, like with the mask mandates and some, not wanting to do that because they're not at like a, an actual venue with like a wedding planner. And, I think for wedding planners too, just having to not only be a wedding planner, but also kind of be like a regulator now, it's just challenging, and like no one really signed up for this. And so it's just really, I feel like that's probably been like one of the biggest challenges that I've seen.
For me, that definitely, but the biggest challenge was, I booked so many weddings at the beginning of the year. I was talking with so many couples and everything just like hit a wall, and rescheduling and communicating and rescheduling again. My calendar and my books are a mess. Like it is such a mess. And literally this morning I got an email from a bride who canceled back in August, and she said her wedding is on. It's for next Saturday, and I hope you can do it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, good thing I'm not going anywhere. Yep, I'll reinstate that invoice and we'll just go for it, But so really right now it's just kind of flying by the seam of our pants, just kind of being there for couples over Labor Day weekend, which is traditionally a pretty busy weekend for me, just because you get that extra day for couples to get married on a Sunday and kind of get, cheaper rates and stuff. But I looked at my calendar and I was like, oh, all my weddings got canceled this weekend. Okay, the husband and I, we went out of town, and on Saturday I got a notification that I had a wedding on Saturday, but it was canceled. But my heart dropped because I was like, oh my God, like this is, you don't know what day it is anymore. Like keeping track of things is the hardest thing right now. And I totally sympathize with all the wedding planners and event coordinators and venues and stuff, because it's just a mess trying to like help these couples and do everything that we can to support them and stay sane,
Totally. On the flip side of that, it's kind of given us both an opportunity to let our customer service shine as well. Because everything, it's just so crazy right now. The couples are struggling, like we're struggling with like logistics and the emotion of it all. Everyone is emotionally strained right now. And so I think that for us to be able to give just an extra level of like security and like, no, everything's going to be okay, and just be extra flexible, and to let them not stress about anything. Because we all know that weddings can be stressful anyways. And especially a wedding during COVID is even more stressful because it's super like just chaotic and it's changing so rapidly. So it's been kind of neat too, at the same time, being able to like give that extra level of customer service and that reassurance to people that like, no, everything's going to be okay. It might not always be the most convenient, but that's okay because it's all going to end up working out.
Yeah, my accountant emailed me the other day, and they were like, they call it like the aging accounts report or something, like all these overdue, because I have all these, balances that have gotten moved around, and they're like, what is going on? Like, why do you have, 18, all these balance? Yeah, I'm like, well, it's because, everything's got moved to next year, or, whatever, right? Trying to keep track of all the invoices. Have you had to turn down weddings and events? You were talking about the ethics and hearing, guest counts and stuff. Have you guys had to do that?
I haven't. No, it hasn't gotten to the point where I've been like, oh, this really doesn't feel right. And it's always about kind of feeling out the guests as well and seeing exactly like how they're going to handle it. Especially if they're like been working with a venue, I would imagine that the venue is doing their due diligence with what they should be doing. But again, it's just kind of like individually filling out. But no, I haven't been directly impacted. No.
Are you guys encouraging people to do more pickup and then set up themselves, or, is that, I mean, I know that's kind of your business model anyway, but do you feel like that's the easiest way to kind of like provide your guys' services, and then, you wrap everything and prepare everything and hand it off? Is that kind of how you guys have been doing that?
It's like 50-50. Like someone's going to come pick up their wedding cake and desserts today for, I think it's Friday or Saturday that they're getting married. It just depends what they're comfortable with. Cause some people are still doing the small 2-tiered cake so they can save their topper and eat it later and stuff. So it just depends if they feel comfortable handling that big cake. Or if they're just getting, like a small cutting cake is no different than a birthday cake. Cupcakes, we can put it in boxes and bags and, be on their way. So it really just depends if they want to save that money in the delivery fee. It also depends like where it's going to. I've been very, upfront with like delivery fees. People have reached out. One wedding is like Mount Vernon. I'm like, yeah, that's, I can go to Skagit, but it's going to cost you money to do that. So, it's a minimum and a cost in delivery. Are you okay with that? And, that's up to them. I kind of put it back in their hands. Since most of the stuff is, takeaway, we're not doing a lot of like rentals with our stands and things. And my policy has always been like, if you're going to rent my stands, I have to come back and get them at the end of the night. So there's no loss or damage. And it's just kind of an added service and benefit that I provide in my business. But because we're not really doing that, again, that's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit too. So it's really just up to the couple, what they feel comfortable with. And yeah.
Have you guys had to change a lot of I mean, obviously it's the cleanliness and sanitary when it comes to cooking and baking and stuff anyway, but have you guys had to rework any of your processes for actually, creating all your desserts and everything?
No, I mean, food handling has always been the same thing. I will say the struggle is real on trying to get gloves. So because the public is using gloves to protect themselves, which we have a natural skin barrier to do that, but people are buying up a lot of these gloves and it is nearly impossible to get them. Mm-hmm. So I will kind of say, like, if you feel like you don't need to use them, please don't, because you're taking them away from people who do need them, like the healthcare workers and the food handling workers. Like, we have to have these gloves. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my only gripe there.
Yeah. But it's real. I mean, I think that, there was probably a 3-4 week stretch where we literally couldn't even find them. I mean, everywhere was sold out. Because, we get a lot of the products still like at Costco, business Costco, same places that other people go to, and they were sold out. And even if you maybe could find them online, they were going for like 7-8 times the regular cost. Like, a box would normally be $4 and they were going for, 25. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So that's been one challenge. So not so much with like the process of baking, but of course, because now we have the storefront, it's like you have to sanitize, and because people are using like our square readers, and although we have like contactless so they can do Apple Pay, it's making sure that that's sanitized and just being a lot more hyper aware of that. Because normally in the past, it's just primarily been Kayla and I here at the bakery. But now, because we've had to change our business model, we've invited in like the Uber drivers and the Grubhub drivers, people picking up more. So that's kind of been another like level of just extra care here within the store. With that being said, one thing that's related to weddings that we haven't been doing is in-person wedding tastings, which is interesting because we've actually had, I know for me personally, I've had a handful of people that, want to come in and they want to have that hands-on experience, which I totally understand, especially from an emotional standpoint. I mean, it's just kind of getting taken away from, like a bride and a groom in that process. And, that's part of the whole wedding process. So I totally am like empathetic to that. But at the same point, we can't have people in our tasting room having 100 touch points and, with like utensils and, having them here for like elongated periods of time. It's just not a possibility. So what we've been doing, which we've always done anyways, is to go boxes. We're trying to make it like as personal as possible. And obviously the boxes are personalized for what they want. But that's one thing that we've really changed, and just telling people, it's like, hey, we're really sorry. Like, we're just not doing in-person tastings right now. So luckily everyone's responded, I feel like, well, and they understand, but so it's the emotional aspect of it.
See, that's like something else, right? That I don't even think about, or no one even thinks about, is that, it's just crazy how it's so specific to each vendor type, all this different stuff. And who would ever think about, except you guys, obviously, in person, cake tastings. And it's like, that was on the never would have thought of that, and it's something, but it is like super important. I know that when Dorothy and I got married, that was super important to do the cake tasting and all of that. So
it's the most fun part.
You maybe get like free champagne. And I mean, we built like this beautiful, it's where we are right now. We built this beautiful tasting room and people come to the store like, oh, what's that for? And I'm like, well, it's kind of like a janitor's closet / makeshift office right now. It's not a tasting room. So like pre-COVID, that's what it was, but kind of a laughing point now. So.
It's wild to go into places. We haven't gone out a lot. We went out to like Matador last night for dinner, and we haven't, gone in forever. And it's just so interesting to see how each different business type has like, huge walls and spaces and things. And obviously where you guys have people come in and out too. It's just interesting to see how everyone's trying to follow the rules. Right. And it's all, but you're like, okay, I feel safe here. Yeah, we did. I know we did a wedding earlier this year where they had kind of a seated dinner, and they did, they still wanted to cut the cake, and then they provided the guests with like the restaurant or whatever had separate like sheet cake or whatever that they brought out. Is that kind of stuff that you guys, where like if they're cutting a cake or whatever, and then you're trying to hand off stuff to other people, is that something we worry about in terms of like, spreading sickness and whatever?
No, because I mean, they should have one mask on and then also gloves. I mean, it's no different than going in a restaurant. If you're a chef, you're working on the line and you have other people around you. You have like your sous chef, you have the person making salads, like a big kitchen in the back. I think with weddings, it's a little bit more transparent. But again, the issue is never with food transmission. And that was made very clear by the Department of Health that if you were to contact COVID, like say through food, your stomach acid is going to kill it. That's what I've been told. So, to me, I don't feel at risk if people are going out and eating at restaurants. Like the risk is more in contact with other people and not the food.
But if the bride and groom didn't have if they cut a cake, like a traditional cake cutting, and they're like on all that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't understand.
That's okay.
Oh, I mean, family's family, right? I don't know. You're seeing them in person,
So
like,
at that point, that's kind of where you draw the line in terms of the households and everything.
Like the household thing. I mean, I get what you're saying. If they're cutting, but see, no one's really cutting big cakes right now.
No. And if people ask for a sheet cake, they're like, oh, I need a sheet cake for 75 people. I mean, automatically, I'm kind of like, oh, like, why so many people? And I know even places like Costco, I mean, they were notorious for doing, I think it was, I don't know if it was like their quarter sheet cakes, but they always had this like sheet cake that was in store. And they actually, I think it was maybe a month and a half ago, they actually got rid of it. And I think part of it was to like stop promoting people. Cause it's like, well, why do you really need large gatherings? Why do you really need a cake to feed like 30 people? So I know that that's actually one thing that Costco has done. But yeah, I mean, it's always interesting when people call, they're like, oh, I need a cake to like feed 75 people. And again, it kind of, go, oh, well, why are you having that many people to feed? So then it kind of pulls it like back in the whole like ethics of it.
But mostly like 30 people. I mean, that's going to be like your immediate family and some best friends, so I assume.
But how many friends do you have?
What?
I was like 7. I'm like, well, and that's with my dog. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No one's really raised the flag like, oh, no one's really asked that question really about, it's interesting. I mean, I always say whatever they're comfortable with, what do you feel comfortable with? What would make your guests feel comfortable? So I don't think there's going to be like too many like distant cousins coming to weddings right now, so
they're like the high risk groups. I mean, unfortunately, maybe they just don't go. But again, it's up to the couple's discretion. So, it's not our job to police. We're just here to bake stuff. So,
but needless to say, so orders of large wedding cakes down right now. But you're getting a lot more. I mean, talk about the kinds of things you are fulfilling right now and things that do seem popular right now with everything going on.
Definitely the small cakes, maybe like a 6-inch cake or an 8-inch cake. I mean, or we can do like a small, like 2-tiered cake where it's that 6-inch cake and an 8-inch cake stacked on top of each other. The one I did today, the couple's picking up is a 6 and a 10-inch cake stack. So that technically serves 50, but they're like saving half of the cake for their 1 year. And they just wanted the look of a 2-tiered cake, which I totally understand. It's kind of like, okay, if I can't have my dream wedding, I at least want a focal point wedding cake, that everyone can kind of see. I did one with Pink Blossom events a couple weeks ago that looked really, really pretty. And I agree, it was very romantic in style, but most people are just kind of doing, the easy stuff. The cupcakes, cookies, I would say, and the small cutting cake are probably my top things right now. Unfortunately, all the couples that I've been working with, at the beginning of the year, we had these, large orders for, 100, 200 plus people. And that's been just shaved down to like 10% of the invoice. And it's really sad because it's hurting us as a business for sure. The business is still kind of there. It's just not what it used to be.
Yeah, how do you guys manage the invoices with that? Is it just an unfortunate thing? I mean, is it like catering where there's minimums? I mean, I have no idea.
I've always been really flexible. Even before COVID, I was like, look, I'm going to put together a proposal. We don't know, because with desserts and catering, you don't know your exact number until you send out the invitations, right? So you expect 200 wedding, you're probably going to be at like 175, 180. That's what I always tell my couples. Like, that's probably where you're going to be. But let's wait until maybe 4 to 6 weeks away from your wedding to confirm everything. And then I'll collect payment then. So luckily it didn't bite me in the butt too much this year with COVID and things getting canceled, because most people hadn't really paid. If they want to put together a payment plan, let's say it's a really big wedding and the invoice is, a pretty big one, and they know they're going to be in this range, then I'll do like an installation of a payment plan. But I've always been kind of flexible. Deposits, I mean, I don't know, like, I just don't think they're going to like go run away. Once they come in and taste and like we have a conversation, and they choose me, they're probably not going to be like, oh, never mind, because they're just like, check, done, So.
Yeah, kind of the same. I mean, again, weddings are already stressful, and we try to make it as easy as possible. So I'm the same. And I mean, same thing, I have a wedding at Lord Hill Farms this weekend. And originally, I think the estimate for the wedding was like $1,300. It's going to be like full dessert spread, 150 people. And I think that they're maybe down to, I think it was like 20, 30, and the final bill, because they were going to totally get rid of the desserts anyways. And I really, trying to encourage them, like, it would be nice to at least have a little something, even if it's a cake for just you guys. And I think the final ticket was like $175. And it's just like, it is what it is. I mean, no one really asked for this. So, just I think being flexible with them and just not causing more havoc to their life already. I mean, life is hard right now. Like, I don't want to contribute to that. So
I did have some couples, they were like really gung ho about like, nope, we're going to get everything paid. And this is before COVID, like, okay, we're going to book you. We're going to get everything paid. We just want it done. And they did that. And it did kind of, hurt them a little bit, because I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, all the wedding industry's final sale, no refunds. Like, we booked you. We rely on that business. Like, I held that position for you, like in my calendar, and I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. And I only had a couple of those. I tried to get everyone to push it to, I can push it to next year. That's totally fine. We're just going to roll it over, and that's just how it's going to be. And I was totally willing to do that. But yeah, it's just kind of hard right now for those one couple. I'm like, I'm sorry, we have a party next year maybe, or like go deliver them to family, or you'll just have like a running invoice here, and we'll just like every birthday we'll just we'll just chisel away. I don't know.
They have like a running credit
or something. But
No, it's so tough. Yeah, that's why I'm totally like the 25% down. I know a lot of videographers and photographers, it's like 50-50. But then, you get these people, and like we had some that paid in full, and I hate that. It's so much stress to have that. And then, you're holding this day, and we had one in August, and they had booked like a year and a half ago, and you just saw, it was like 250, and then 200 people, and then 150, and then 100, and then we finally did the 30-person wedding. And I just feel so bad. I'm like, man, the vision that you guys had when we booked, is now, it's radically different. And, we've carried that invoice the whole time, or it carried had been paid, just carried the date the whole time,
Yeah. Right.
Do you guys, with the new stuff last night, with, kind of some limited receptions here, whatever, do you anticipate getting some more orders and things? I mean, that's obviously exciting news. What are your thoughts just kind of on the regulations that came out last night as of September 16th, 17th, now that we're recording this?
Yeah. Super exciting. Very proud of our community for really just hustling and getting, it done and helping educate the, politicians in our state that like, hey, we can do this safely and it's better to do it this way versus not and have all these crazy illegal weddings out in the boonies or something, like let us do our job because we are the professionals and we know what we're doing. The regulations, it's really interesting on like the dancing. I mean, it's very tight, like what you can and can't do still. But I think for most of my couples who have pushed back, I think they're just going to stick with it. The ones that were kind of holding out for the fall, I'm probably going to get some emails in the next week. So I'm anticipating that because I know a lot of my spring couples pushed it back to late summer, early fall, who then pushed it back, to next year. But the ones like my October, groups were kind of holding out just to see if anything happened. But I have to actually look at my calendar just to see who those people are and get in contact with them now that we have a clear direction. And like I said, that one who was canceling for August emailed me this morning saying we're doing it next week. So that might have been one of them. I don't know if they would have found out that quickly. I'm not sure if they're working with a planner or anything. So who knows? That could have been one of those.
Holly, what about you?
Sorry, I was totally zoning out there.
Are we going to get more business?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I definitely think that as things change, we certainly, I would imagine, it would come in. And I mean, it's not always like applicable to weddings too. I mean, my mind was kind of wandering into other events too, because I know, with things like funerals, which I mean, it's, they happen. People are still dying.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's another thing that we've, had to like cater as well. So, I mean, you have to think about, it's not always just weddings, it's events like that as well. Cause I think like funerals in Washington, I think that it's like limited. It's close to weddings. It's something like 25. Yeah. And so, I mean, you have to think about things like that because we've actually had people reach out to us in that realm, as well. So I think that just with, some things getting, like lifted and reconsidered, even within and without, or like outside the wedding realm, that, it's just going to open up a lot more for any kind of like specialty gatherings in general.
Oh no, the memorials is we just live streamed a memorial last week because of guest count. And then I have another memorial on Sunday with friend of the podcast, Greg Lauder, he's going to help DJ. But yeah, it's the same thing. Like you said that, unfortunately all this stuff happens and they have lots and lots of family that needs to come and lots of family that can't travel to come. And it's, we're putting it up and they have people sending in messages from like Korea or wherever part of the family is because they just can't, it's crazy, right? Could you imagine, unfortunately having something happen to someone you love and then like literally not being able to go? It's crazy. Last question, because I've kept you guys so long and I appreciate it. Here, we're getting ready to you guys are opening up the bakery here in a minute. If I'm someone planning the wedding right now, just a good idea, something to think about for a good take home. I know we talked about like cupcakes and stuff, just fun stuff that you guys specialize in. If I'm someone that's kind of bummed out about, having to downsize or whatever, but I still want to give my guests something fun or memorable, right? Something memorable to eat there or something memorable to take home from the wedding. What would you guys recommend?
I always go for like my sugar cookies because I can print edible images on them so I could put the couple's face on it, like something fun. I partner a lot with Shannon from Impress Ink to do custom little tags that say like love is sweet on them. That's kind of fun. I think, thank God for like Pinterest and Etsy and stuff. There's so many cute little things that you could, put on cupcakes or attach to the cupcakes or desserts in general, not just cupcakes, to just make it a little bit more special. But I would say my sugar cookies are probably the most custom thing that I could do the most fun stuff with in that regard.
Yeah, and for me, I've always just done like a huge spread for dessert bars, and luckily, they're pretty robust, so you can actually individually wrap them. So anything from like cupcakes to brownies, to different kinds of like cookies, like sugar cookies,
or even like little treat boxes.
Yeah, kind of just like an individual little thing. Like chocolate covered Oreos, cake pops, and again, a lot of those items you can still kind of customize them, which is great because you can tie it in with a whole theme. So you're still getting that kind of that fun custom dessert option as well, in a safe way.
Well, I love that idea that you guys were talking about kind of the if everyone's going to be situated, by table and family group and all of that, being able to put together a little box, for each table, or a little tray for each table, so people still feel like they're getting this, variety of whatever, and not having to go through like a dessert buffet or whatever right now. I just think it's a great idea. And I think that makes people feel like really catered to, and really like the couple is thinking about them, and not only like their safety, but then also like, oh wow, look at all this fun stuff I get to eat or whatever. So I think that's great. Just like, utilizing all the talents of all the different bakers and other dessert makers and everything else, but really still finding ways to, make the weddings that we have so memorable and special. So I think that's great.
Totally.
Anything else from you guys before I let you go open the store and get busy?
Ooh, can I do 2 plugs?
Yes.
Okay, first plug, WIPA. Since this is a wedding pro, if you are a part of WIPA or you're not, they're doing a movie night. I don't know if anyone else is mentioning it, but I'm doing the dessert. So, woo-hoo, yeah. So come get yummy treats, and I would love to see all the wedding professionals' faces who I haven't seen in so long. So come to that, check it out. It's on WIPA. And then also we're doing a little event at the bakery on Halloween.
Because it's on a Saturday, like every great holiday this entire year has been on a Saturday.
On a Saturday, and no one's gonna be able to go trick or treating. So if you have like kids, or if you're in the Kirkland area, you can order on Grubhub and Uber Eats. We're gonna be doing special treats, so like Halloween themed, like cookies and cupcakes and all those kinds of things. So you can order online. You can kind of pop into the store, bring the kids. They can dress up. It's not like a trick or treating event. It's just come get fun treats and kind of, I don't know, get out of the house on a Saturday kind of thing. So we're going to be open till like midnight. So it's going to be fun. We're just going to be hanging out at the bakery, probably drinking some wine and chilling.
We have a fog machine. So I mean, honestly, like what could go wrong? It's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
And well, knocking the mic. And I will be there on the drive-in on the WIPA. I'll be doing the video. So we'll hang out. And I was just at Twin Willows last week, and did a fantastic wedding, a nice, safe wedding, followed all the rules. It was incredible. And I'll be excited to go back and see everybody and do that. That will be fun.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Well, thank you guys so much again. Can you plug your company names and websites really quick, and I'll let you go?
Sure. Kayla at Seatown Sweets. It's seatownsweets.com. Seatown, like Seattle, Seatown.
And Holly with Hollywood Baked Goods. Yes, that is a play on words. That was the intention. HollywoodBakedGoods.com. And we're on Instagram, Facebook, and all that jazz.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. I know I kind of sprung this on you this week, and it's, you guys are crazy going into the weekend, and it's busy, but I really appreciate it. Again, this has been another episode of Best Made Weddings, talking some sweets today. And if you have a question for an upcoming episode, you can go to bestmadevideos.com/survey. We have all these vendor types, and we do these roundtables kind of every week, talking about basically whatever I think is important. And right now we were talking about desserts. So we'll see what happens next week. And thank you guys so much again for gracing us with your time.
Thanks, Reed.
Thanks. Good to see you.